What's up, everybody? Welcome to Huddle Up and WAIT. I am your host, Bret Legassi. With me, as always, is Dave Steger. And we have a special guest today, Rudy Reyes. Rudy, how are you today, my friend?
Hey, I am doing well, guys. Appreciate you having me on. I am doing well. Just waiting for the start of football. And of course, I'm waiting for the day and the ball to drop literally on my birthday. So happy birthday to me in advance. First opening day in the NFL. So yeah,
that's awesome,
I love it,
man.
the big 25.
Early birthday.
Yeah, right.
25. I remember my 25th birthday. Good Lord.
Come on, he's not a day over 27.
Stop.
Yeah. Well,
The
you should ask
references
the
he was
Iron
saying
Maiden
before this
concert,
show,
yeah.
he can't be that old.
No, I'm a little old, and of course, it goes back to watching Iron Maiden in concert.
Oh, there's a drop. The young
yeah.
kids don't know about that.
I thought the Olivia
Yeah.
Newton. The Olivia Newton reference was a
Look,
drop.
She was the same age in the year I was born. So she died in 73. I was born in 73. So that's the reason why I had that strange affinity. Other than, that I liked her as an actress and her songs were good and,
Well,
good stuff like that. So, yeah. What do you know? How do you do?
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about the AFC South, NFC South.
A little bit.
Last week, I missed the whole AFC East, NFC East because I was having some medical issues. So, man, what a day to miss. God, the AFC East. Well, that's all right. I do the Finns Talk show, so we're good.
We know you're a Tua guy. We know you want him to stay on the team.
I missed so much opportunity to stir the pot. So I'm back today. Rudy, what's your cup say?
My cup says, it very simply and kindly put, you want a piece of me. And that's kind of how I'm feeling right about now, feeling a piece of me. And, of course, it's reference to what we have going on in the wonderful and glorious NFC South, where we had ultimately seen the Tampa Bay Buccaneers falter last season. Of course, they had a really solid offensive line. Ryan Jensen's scheduled to be on track. So all you Buccaneers fans out there, he should be back, but put on IR. I suspect he'll probably miss about 6 games right now, but that offensive line is a little wishy-washy as far as I can see. Tom Brady missing, what was it, a month of training camp?
Yeah.
Rumors around Masked Singer, and I'm not even I wouldn't mask myself to try to sing. I mean, I probably could hold a note in a bucket, but that would be as far as I could get. When you look at Tom Brady and the fact that he was able to be excused enough to be gone for that long and then come back with a shifted offensive line, I don't know that the Bucs are the real deal until all the dust settles and kickoff starts. So,
and the thing is, I've heard rumors that he was having some issues with home life and
Giselle was upset.
And anybody who has kids understands, and she runs her own fashion empire, and she's trying to have the kids. And being a parent, no matter how wealthy, successful you are, is stressful. It doesn't matter who it is, So, and that maybe that plays a toll. And Brady's getting up there now, and I think he just looks like he's just burnt out, and he needed that time to reset. And I still fully believe he saw that offensive line. I was like, all right, guys, call me when the offensive line's fixed. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that was my guess as well. Yeah, no,
he probably got back and was like, "Are the offensive linemen playing a joke on me? Like, where are they? Like, everyone's gone. Where is it? I don't know these guys."
There's just way too many magic tricks going on there. But to be honest with you, if I was him, I would have found myself somewhere in Cancun, just kind of maxing and relaxing.
He probably was arguing with Giselle in Cancun. That's where he was.
You know what though? You got to think he retired, right? And whatever the whole situation with the Dolphins was and all. I think he was trying to just become owner. I'm going to retire, get a paycheck to be like an owner and run stuff because I don't have to do this anymore. But now he's probably kicking himself in the ass. Like, damn man, this offensive line is rough now. Like maybe I should have just stayed retired.
I don't know if the kids chasing you around is equal to a 350-pound linebacker chasing you around. I don't know. I mean,
Hakeem Hicks in the D line in training camp.
Yeah, a little much. But I mean, look, he is the GOAT. Maybe he was sipping some gin and tonic on the beach in Cancun. But there's one thing for sure that I know for a fact: you don't hear much underwater. So maybe that's where he was.
Maybe.
No screaming kids, no screaming Giselle, no Giselle's running by. I mean,
As someone who has a little one, at least during the game, those big guys chase you. Eventually stops and you get a break. It's all day, man. It doesn't stop.
No, you tell him to grab a Snickers and, he'll be all right for at least 30 minutes or so, maybe. Depends on how big the linebacker is, or the Snickers for that matter.
Maybe he has a future with Snickers. I know he eats right, but, maybe he can do commercials for Snickers.
Snickers, I know I could.
Let's do the let's stick with the NFC South here. So, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I was gonna say for the Bucs, since we're already on it, I'm gonna go ahead and say I think they're gonna win the division again. But it's the whole fact that there's question marks. The interior offensive line, Gronk's not there anymore. That's a biggie. That's Brady's fallback.
A huge one. Yeah, I still have Cameron Brate and Kyle Rudolph, but is it going to be the same?
They added Julio, which is nice, but Gronk is his guy. They're in rhythm. They're on that mental capacity where they don't need to talk to each other. They know what they're going to do on their ins and outs. Now he's got to learn a new guy with Julio on what he likes, what he does, all that stuff.
So, and Godwin's coming off that knee injury, right? So Mike Evans, who's like, it's his only.
He'll get another 1,000 yards, touchdowns minimum. He'll get it.
But is the division open? The Saints swept them last year, right? So is that division kind of open? I mean, has Brady ever lost a division as a starter? Maybe once.
I believe once, but it wasn't in the AFC East. I believe that was in the NFC South.
Yep.
The only time.
His first year.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So
it's all about the acclimation process, quote unquote. I'll use this.
Yeah.
When you talk about the acclimation process, is we'll just call it that. But no, he was in the process. You have to learn the offense. You have to learn your coaches, guys you're playing with, guys under center, and just familiarity with the playbook and the play calling. Of course, everything was regimental with little less to talk about when it's coming from Bill Belichick, or maybe turn the other Bella cheek. I don't know, whichever one you want to call it. But
can't tell this Steelers fan has some.
No. I have no partiality whatsoever to disliking Belichick. I just love the lack of embellishment from him in post-game pressers. It's just fantastic. Someone asks him a 25-word question, and his reply is, "Well, we'll see." What?
We'll look at a practice on Monday.
See, yeah, exactly. You gonna bring me some bacon and eggs? Well, we'll see.
I mean, could you imagine being a beat writer and that's your job? I mean, you got to cover the Patriots. I mean, like, you got a fan base that's pretty spoiled, so that's the easy part, because all right, well, Belichick didn't give us anything, whatever. We're gonna keep winning, and then you got to go through and try to pull anything out of Belichick. Like, give us a story, give us something. He gives you nothing, absolutely nothing. I couldn't imagine writing for him. That'd be like having a filler paper you turn in for college. Like, I'll just throw a bunch of words in here if it makes sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't imagine what his autobiography would actually be like. It's like 5 pages.
One paragraph.
I'd say 5 pages. Well, no, six pages. One for each of the Super Bowls he's won.
His early life is one paragraph. That's it. Nothing else.
I think the NFL Network deserves a reward because they did a football life. They did like a 3-parter with him. So it's like, that's pretty impressive. You actually got that much out of him.
It was all game and no pressers. I mean, that's what it boils down to. All the lack of, continuity or a man of few words on the sideline is Bill Belichick. But no, I mean, in all honesty, he had a regimented offense, the way that he called it, the way that he did it. Making in-game adjustments was really huge for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But more importantly, when you looked at the quote-unquote quarterback whisper, and there are a few of those around the NFL, I think Bruce Arians was certainly one of those.
Oh, for sure.
He did acquire a Super Bowl that Ben Roethlisberger helped kind of lead him to acquire. I can't say that really worked out while he was in Arizona, of course, also known as Steelers West. But
for more than just him, too.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you have Larry Foote, you have a couple other players that were formerly on it. Then
had Ken Wisenhunt.
Yeah, they had Ken Wild Ken Wisenhunt.
Oh man.
But everybody called him Wiz for that matter. And I don't even want to speculate on what that was about. But anyway, so you have you had Tom Brady, 45, still wearing that chip on his shoulder, even though that chip is starting to look more like a number 2 pencil because he's got the rings to support his ability to be that guy, to demand time off in training camp. I don't know the last time any quarterback or any high-profile player would even ask for that kind of time off. It's kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is. When you have that kind of pull and you're the GOAT, I guess you can pull GOAT things out of your hat, out of your trophy. I mean, whatever works for you. So Ryan Jensen, Aaron Stinney, both guys certainly are going to be needed on that line as the year goes on for the Buccaneers. I don't necessarily believe the Buccaneers will have the easiest route to winning the NFC South. They will win it, but the bigger question is when you're looking at the New Orleans Saints, what does that look like? Where does their defense look? Cam Jordan, you have Jameis Winston, who essentially kind of stumbled over someone in training camp, ankle injury. I don't know if it's a prima donna thing for him or not. More, drama for your mama. I don't know what that's all about. Jameis Winston never been known for the most fleet of foot, so to speak. So for him to get injured, I mean, I'm not going to say that the guy is slow as molasses, but he doesn't have the fastest wheels on the planet, to say the least. He's no Lamar Jackson by far, and I'm probably not even put him in the same category. But I think that when you look at the Buccaneers, who just did, extremely well last year, but missing the margin of victory, literally and figuratively, don't necessarily find themselves in a much better situation, other than to get these guys back to health as soon as humanly possible, so that way they can continue their run and maybe another NFC South title, perhaps.
Maybe. Well, you mentioned the Saints, and they swept them last year, and Brady seemed to have some troubles against that defense last year. They did a great job of pressuring up the middle. They just did a great job of just giving them fits and giving the receivers fits. And but then the Saints just traded Chauncey Gardner. So, that kind of plays a role. What are the Saints? What is their outlook? Do they have another corner to replace him? Because they're going to need him against the Buccaneers. And then with Sean Payton stepping away, are they going to be the same team? Is the offense going to be the same? Yeah, they have Dennis Allen, so the defense shouldn't miss a beat. The defense looks about the same other than missing their second corner, but it's still Lattimore. So, you look, can they challenge them? That depends on their coaching. It really, honestly, do they have the talent to? And then you look at the Falcons. Where are they with Arthur Smith? They were kind of finding their way. They played a lot tougher than people expected them to be. They had a lot of no-name guys, but they were physical. They wanted to run the ball. They wanted to establish their style of play. They had Kyle Pitts, who's going to be a young superstar. But then you got questions at quarterback. And then the Panthers have Baker Mayfield. Now, he seems pretty ticked off, and everybody knows when Baker's ticked off, he actually plays. Maybe he has a year that he steps up. I think it'd be cool to see, but I don't really trust Matt Rule. So it doesn't appear on the surface that anybody could challenge the Buccaneers if they can get their offensive line serviceable and Brady fresh. It doesn't really appear that way. However, you just never know in today's NFL. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Panthers win this division and sneak at the end of the year if the Buccaneers have a little bit of a slip up.
I'm going to comment on the Saints. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, like you said, Brett, he just got traded. And then today, as of this morning, Marcus May just got arrested for an aggravated assault with a firearm. That's two DBs. They're down in a pretty important secondary that is supposed to be able to handle one-on-ones. Yeah, Honey Badger's there, but Honey Badger does well when he's got a supporting cast. And when there's not many guys around him that can help cover.
He does best when he can just run free and just make
have those other guys cover. But the thing is, if you don't have that, that's a problem. I mean,
well, you did that in Kansas City.
Yeah. And I'm just that's where my big question is now with New Orleans is losing those two guys, because we all know that aggravated assault with a firearm, that's going to get you suspended. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if it's like in question or not. You're attached to that now. The NFL, Goodell's going to see red like a bull, and they're going to go for it.
And do they want to attack? Well, I mean, that's how they play football, right? They blitz the hell out of you, and they allow their corners to go one-on-one. They can blitz at you because their corners could go one-on-one. So that's going to be a big question.
Marshawn Lattimore's there, but he can only handle one side of the field. He can't handle the other.
And then the other aspect is, and I know they beat the Buccaneers twice last year, but that was Sean Payton. What do they do with is Jameis Winston going to be able to lead them? They don't have Ian Book anymore. I forgot who the backup.
They were 6-3 before he tore his ACL. So they were on a positive record before.
But without
again,
Sean Payton,
I get that.
Simplified offense. I mean, so. Ooh.
Well, I think the bigger picture is can Jameis Winston get back to the form he was prior to to that injury? He was on a great pace. He was playing with complete ferocity. I mean, the guy was on fire. Threw more touchdowns than he did interceptions. Completion ratio was just getting higher and higher every single game. So he was becoming acclimated to that process, even under Sean Payton, but more so with Dennis Allen. Now, after he went down, now you're talking about quarterback by committee. And
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, for all the great things that he does, he doesn't quarterback well. He's not he doesn't quarterback well. In all fairness, the name starter, and of course you give Taysom Hill, what was it, a 2 or 3 year extension on his current contract?
So now
quite a bit of money too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that not all that's guaranteed, which is going to hurt the Saints if it turns into dead money by the end of the year, and or he becomes injured to a point where they don't have a choice. What do they do at the quarterback position? You look at Jameis Winston. Is he going to be ready? Is he not ready? Now, you mentioned Ian Book. I had a chance to sit down with Ian Book during the Super Bowl at Radio Row. And I picked up a lot of great things about him. And I believe that the writers are really missing the boat on Ian Book. And I mean that to the effect of Ian Book was ready to go. The problem was that it was such a crowded quarterback room that he didn't know he was going to get any opportunity whatsoever. And because of his lack of work with the twos, the lack of work with the ones, the lack of preparation, and by all means, the Saints are a great organization. They've won 1 Super Bowl. They used to be the Aints before that. Well, now they're the Saints. But I mean, seriously, did they treat Ian Book the same way and given him the opportunities as they had done with Jameis Winston?
Not
right?
at all.
The answer is no. So Ian Book, for all that he's worth, is a viable quarterback. He needs to be.
Well, he's with Philly now. He got let go. Yeah,
correct. So now he's in a better system. He's in a backup Minshew the Maniac, and hopefully under Sirianni is able to learn and get acclimated that much faster and learn a different style of offense. I mean, they do run a variable style. In the NFC, everybody knows it's a big copycat, no longer the NFC least. It's the NFC East until everybody starts losing, and below 500 it's back to the NFC least again, which could very well happen, as you know, because the Cowboys don't know how to shore any positions. That's a whole other segment for another show. But I look at Ian Book as an underridden, underplayed, and basically people are trying to write him off as if he's not going to have an opportunity. Now, maybe it's not in Philadelphia. Maybe it's somewhere else. But what that does is and we see the same thing that happened when the Chicago Bears under Matt Nagy. I just chilled myself when I said that. Under Matt Nagy.
Hey, that's Delaware's finest.
That's not a big thing.
I'm just kidding.
I just give myself chills just even mentioning his name. Anyway,
we had Joe Flacco.
All
right, we had George Thorogood. Okay, God, we gave you back to the boat.
George Bush, for that matter. Heck, I'm sure he'd probably coach a lot better than him. Now you have Justin Fields, who looks really good in preseason. Everything's vanilla, but he looks really good in preseason.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a guy named anybody remember him? Mitch Trubisky. Okay, so
Trubisky, yeah.
He
starts for the Steelers.
He's not a Butsky. He was a Butsky when he was with the Bears. It's a 2B, right? 2B
I
or
had
not
to take
2B?
I had to take a
Right.
take a shot there, Rudy.
No, that's
No, not a
okay.
Packers guy.
That's perfectly okay. No, not at all. No, not me. Never. So here he is getting an opportunity under a very poor system to play in Buffalo, next to a guy who I was once a year removed from interviewing, and I look at this situation and I'm very cautious to suggest that Mitch will last up to week 6 for Pittsburgh. That's a whole nother topic. But he earned the starting job. Well, now he's been acclimated with Brian Daboll, works under Josh Allen, now has an opportunity to be the starter again in a completely different situation. I think Ian Book would be served to do the very same thing and to showcase what his capabilities are, even though he's on, I don't know, a 3-quarterback system there. Whether or not he'll ever play is another story. But anyway, to your point, I think that he'll have an opportunity. It's just a question of when, and will it be with the Eagles this season? Yeah. That remains to be seen. Right. But when it comes to the Saints, they have DeMario Davis, they have Cam Jordan, they have those two guys that are always after your quarterback, and they've done it time and time again,
Davis
which could give Tom Brady. He is excellent. He is
underrated for
excellent.
A long time.
He continues to be a guy that's under the radar, and I don't think anybody had given the Saints defense as much credit as he probably should have last year, considering the quarterback carousel that they contended with. But more importantly, I think that Tom Brady, if that offensive line continues to be shaky for the Buccaneers, I think those guys will take advantage of that line and could run a very close second with the Buccaneers. I just don't know where the Panthers are in that race and if they'll rise above or at least get to 500 or above 500. That remains to be seen. And I think it's all on the shoulders or the labrum of one quarterback.
Nice.
I just thought I'd throw
labrums.
I
think he injured both last year.
I'd throw that out there.
He's a pun dictionary over here.
I'm telling you, it's pun day Thursday. But no, I mean, in all fairness, I really think that the Saints, and I believe that the Saints will become more familiarized and have to mix it up against the Buccaneers to have a chance at getting through that line and getting to Tom Brady. But don't forget, he's had some of the best protection throughout his entire career. He's only had to run for a few, and I believe he's only ran for 2 touchdowns within the 1-yard line or something like that. That doesn't really speak to his credit at all, but the guy knows where the ball needs to be placed. He understands his checkdowns, routes, wheel routes. He knows it, and he's the best to do it. So it's going to be tough to see where this Saints team is. And if they drop off at any point during the season, I think the Panthers will find themselves slowly behind them, ready to take that second spot in the NFC South.
So the one thing I want to touch on with the Saints real quick is they did sign Andy Dalton as the backup. And Taysom Hill, I just pulled up the roster, is listed as a tight end. What that means, I really don't know. I'm pretty sure he's the emergency quarterback. Right, I'm pretty sure he's a third-string quarterback. I'm pretty
he's
sure
like the Julian Edelman type. If basically every quarterback on the Patriots got injured when he was playing,
So like with Jameis Winston out, I'm pretty sure they maybe I don't know if they'll sign a quarterback or they'll just go with Dalton and Hill. But I do like the fact that Hill is still on the roster because he is a weapon for them, and they still have they'd have a lot of weapons. I don't think people are talking about the Saints' weapons enough. You already have Alvin Kamara. We know what Michael Thomas can be. He's
injured again though. He pulled his hamstring in camp again.
But like he's a high volume guy. But then they have Jarvis Landry, high volume guy. They have one of the receivers I absolutely loved coming into this draft was Chris Olave out of Ohio State, who's just a technician. The kid who just understands to track the football. Brian Hartline does a phenomenal job. Ignore my Ohio State's on here.
And Miami Dolphin. Yeah.
But Brian Hartline does a phenomenal job at Ohio State training and teaching these young wide receivers. And I absolutely love it. And the thing to keep in mind is the offensive coordinator of the Saints has been there since Sean Payton was there. What I think he started
knows all the guys.
Yeah. So he's been there forever. He's learned under Sean Payton for a majority of his entire career. He's been the offensive coordinator, game planner, sometimes situational play caller for years under Sean Payton. Now, Sean Payton called the plays, but everybody knows, a lot of people should know in the NFL, there's certain situations where some other people call play, whether it's red zone, third and shorts, or third and longs, or whatever it may have you. But Sean Payton wouldn't have retired and just said, all right, see you guys later, without like at least having something in place. And Dennis Allen pretty much kept the staff intact. So, and Dennis Allen, I think he gets a bad rap as a head coach. He started getting a lot of recognition in 2019 for head coach interviews. And I think he just was in a bad situation with Oakland at the time with the Raiders. And I think it was just an ugly situation because they tore the team down after that. They had no money to spend. And now I think he's getting a second opportunity. And I actually want to see the Saints flourish. And I do think that the Saints can challenge the Buccaneers for this division. It's just going to come down to the quarterback situation. And whenever it comes down to basically looking at the team, who's going to win it, you look at the quarterback situation. And yeah, the 49ers beat the Rams. They swept the Rams last year, but the Rams beat them in the playoffs when it mattered most.
That third matchup, the only one that matters.
And that's kind of how I see it. Like the Saints, yeah, they can sweep the Buccaneers, but can you beat them when it matters most? And that'll be interesting to watch. The rest of the division, like the Panthers, just a wild card. I wouldn't sleep on them for sure, but they're wild card. But they have some sleeper weapons: Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. So I really like that too.
Only if McCaffrey can stay healthy. That's the biggest question mark. That's been his Achilles heel. No pun intended.
If he's 99%, he ain't playing.
Right. Yeah, but like if he's 100%, man, that could be good for them. And then the Falcons, they're just a young team. They're going to be that team that like they might screw some things up for people. You know what I mean? Like I don't trust Mariota, but I absolutely love Arthur Smith and what he's done. And I think this division might run, but I think here's how I have it finishing out. I had the Panther or the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Panthers, the Falcons. That's how I have this division finish out. Rudy, how do you see it?
There's I've
you're on the spot, man. You're on the spot.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You know what? The Saints will be that runner-up because they still have those pieces to figure out. And you said it best, Dave. They're missing two solid DBs. One who couldn't keep his hand off a gun. Why he's carrying one is beyond me. Personal security reasons, whatnot.
Yeah, but brandishing it, like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, you don't. I mean, the intention of pulling a gun out is that you're going to use it, right? And if you don't pull the gun out, you're not going to use it. It's kind of simple, but the intent is obviously there.
Correct.
The Saints end up at a very strong 9-8. I think they finish off at 9-8. Whether or not it's enough to get them in is obviously dependent on the rest of the NFC. But I think the Saints will find themselves and find themselves later in the season and not on the immediate because of those DBs that are out. How is Jameis Winston's health? Is he going to be able to carry them throughout the beginning to the mid part of the season? And if he doesn't, who's available? Who's ready? Who's familiar with the offense? Who can read the routes? I don't trust Andy Dalton. I never have, and I probably never will. He's a poor man's Ryan Tannehill, and I will stick to that till the cows come home. And I know we're going to talk about the AFC South, and the cows come back to Boston. If you're a believer of that, Boston. So the Saints at 9-8, I think is lofty for me to suggest, but I still believe that's going to be a strong 9-8 and not a soft 9-8. But again, it has to do with those aforementioned pieces working together in synchronicity. Carolina Panthers, very interesting case there, only because you'd mentioned Matt Rule not following his own measurement of what success looks like. Rule measurement, I thought I'd throw another one in there. So the Panthers themselves in a situation
just got it.
where
I'm used to this whenever he's on, Brett.
It must be the internet connectivity. The internet's just. I mean, I can't help it.
Sometimes my brain's on dial-up, man.
The rule or the rule of thumb, I don't know. So the Carolina Panthers are not going to walk away from this squeaky clean, and I say that because you still have to figure out what Baker Mayfield's throwing motion is like. He looked decent in preseason. Why you would get rid of Will Grier is another story. and send him over to another NFC team, not in the East, but in the West. Carolina's had a great start. Last 3 seasons, 3-0 right off the bat, because they have the fluency, because they have the drive, because all the pieces are actually working. But somehow along the way, it's not as if they committed a lot of money. The Jaguars have spent more money during the last 3 off seasons than any NFL team combined, at billions of dollars, not millions, billions with a B.
I think this last year was one of the biggest.
It was the largest because of the Urban / Oscar Mayer hot dog slip. That was a big issue.
The Wiener Oscar show.
There it is. You said it better than I did. Forget the rest. I was going to go on. I was going to go on a long tangent. Oscar Mayer, long.
I'll tell you what, though, the Panthers. I mean, not to ruin the Wiener talk here, but the Panthers actually.
How dare you, Brett?
They have some nice weapons to work with. Shea Smith, Laviska Shenault, DJ Moore, Terrence Marshall, Rashid Higgins.
Laviska's going to be fun in this offense, I think.
Robbie Anderson.
Hey, Robbie's on the trade block. I saw a couple of reports that he is being reached out to by a couple teams to see if he might go somewhere. But Rashard Higgins is another one.
It's Tommy all because Trumbull, of Shenault. That's why.
Yeah.
If Shenault didn't land there, he wouldn't have any reason, right? It's kind of like Mims out in New York, right, with the Jets. He wants out because he's the 6th man on his 6th wide receiving core. He's not getting playing time, and they're not giving him the light of day to go seek a trade because the Jets need him more than he needs them.
Well, that's the thing. He just showed out why they need him. He just put up 7 catches, 109 yards, a touchdown, and I'm like, play the kid.
Yeah. Well,
the
Jets will do Jets things.
Rudy, to your point, you're making it. They jumped out to a 3-0 start last year.
Yeah.
So, that's
this has been big fluency. This is a big fluency. Now don't forget, offensive coordinator Ben McAdoo, who was a lousy head coach, came over as offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. And for all his infinite wisdom, I mean, with a guy named McAdoo, you think of a tennis player. You think of
I think of like a chess player.
That's John McEnroe.
Or maybe a cartoon character, Mr. Magoo. That's who I'm thinking of. I'm going old school.
Mr. McAdoo. Oh, that's a hell of a fantasy team.
Good movie with Leslie Nielsen. Just saying.
Yes, it was indeed. So Leslie Nielsen, it deserves a spot.
Comment: all Leslie Nielsen movies are great movies. Spy Hard, Naked Gun trilogies. I loved it.
Oh my goodness. Well, what about Airplane then? Where does that even fit?
Oh man,
hold on, give me a bottle of water so I can sweat. All right, so I'm gonna add in on the Panthers real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and I was high on him in our group chat earlier, Brett. I was sitting there talking about him. I know you're not a big fan of Rule. I think he fixes it here. I think the Saints drop because of DBs getting either arrested, traded. I think Trevor Penning getting injured was huge. Teron Armstead left in free agency. That's huge. Panthers got some offensive linemen the past couple of years. A lot of their defense is first and second rounders. They're starting to mature now. I think with that receiving core, Baker's got something to prove. They make the wild card. I think they make 7th seed.
Interesting.
I just have faith in Baker. I watched him do it for Cleveland. Cleveland hadn't had a playoff win in forever. Sorry, Rudy. But I got it. He did it. He did it 2 years ago, and they just shunned him off for Deshaun. I don't get it. Like, the guy helped you bring you back to glory, try to get your team up. And I understand it wasn't a solo performance, but
he wasn't
a big part of it.
The problem was he wasn't consistent. Well, no, but he wasn't consistent. That was the
big. Who'd you rather have, Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield?
But that's like
Baker Mayfield.
Well, obviously,
twice on Sunday. It's Baker Mayfield all day because he had everything to prove at Texas Tech. They didn't care. He had everything to prove at Oklahoma. Didn't care. He went on to play with the Browns and led them to the first playoff win in 30 years, and they've had more offense. They've had more quarterbacks start under center than most quarterbacks have children, not not named Drew Brees. So I mean,
Or Phillip Rivers.
or Phillip Rivers. He has an entire offensive line, but then again, he lives in Utah.
Doggone it!
I'm
That
just saying,
never
Mormon and all. I beat you to that one, but don't beat the kids. Let the kids beat you. No, I mean, worst case scenario for the Panthers, to be realistic here, it's to be as level-headed and as serious as possible. He's just going to take the broom and sweep it all away and start anew. Because Matt Rule is on his last leg.
Yeah, he's on the hot
there
seat.
in Carolina. If nobody thinks he's on the hot seat, and he doesn't think that he's not on the hot seat, he'll be gone faster than Urban Meyer kicking a punter 50 yards for a field goal. Okay,
5-11 and 5-12, and then he fires Joe Brady, saying that Joe Brady was the problem, and it's like, no, it's not.
Joe Brady's offense works. It's just the fact that no one ever gives him a chance to let it work. That's the problem.
Then when you watch the Panthers last year, their system worked. There was receivers running wide open.
Sam Darnold would throw 20 yards.
Right. Yeah. And then they go get Baker Mayfield, which I thought was a smack in the face of Joe Brady. Like, hey, we gave you Sam Darnold and you failed with him. You fell on the sword for me. Oh, by the way, I'm going to upgrade a quarterback too. Thanks. Sorry, thanks for your time here. Like, what? Well, you couldn't give me a quarterback before and see what I could do with him.
Baker's miles ahead of Sam. A mile.
Baker Mayfield and Joe Brady's offense. I would be telling you right now, the Panthers will be winning the division.
Well, that's going to boil down to quarterback play. Don't forget that ankle of Sam Darnold is what's preventing him from playing any further, at least for the next 4 games and everything leading up to that point. Now, as good as Sam Darnold was in college, he has not transmitted that onto an NFL field. And when his name was called, and I thought to myself, wow, he's got a big arm. He's a likable guy, and he is. I interviewed him multiple times at Pac-12 conferences. He's just a great guy, and he's super likable. But when he got picked, I thought to myself, is he even ready? Is he more ready than Josh Rosen? And Josh Rosen is on his 5th NFL team, and he was just cut on a wire. Not even a quality backup. He could have stayed one more year at UCLA and maybe become that much better in the offense that they're running there under Kelly when Kelly was there. Now he's at LSU. There's just a lot of things to like about Sam Darnold. The problem that I have is that Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Maybe he was trying to chase the same ones down that the Scooby-Doo gang was trying to find. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, the janitor did it. But I mean, it wasn't for those pissed kids. I really think that Carolina could be the sleeper, and I think everybody's sleeping on Carolina, to be quite honest with you.
Agreed.
And I said earlier, if the Saints falter and they fall off the wagon, Carolina could be that sleeper. Again, maybe at 500 and maybe squeak in as a wild card. But again, that's all dependent on the rest of the NFC, and there are a lot of other much better teams in the NFC that have been sitting below 500. Question is who's racing to a wild card anytime soon? You have tons of teams. I mean, look at the Lions, 30 years of winless football getting into postseason. Last time they ever did that was Barry Sanders. And how long ago was that? I was a teenager.
Well,
I was single digits of age.
Well, wait, last time they went to the playoffs was with
Matt Stafford, yeah,
right. So like,
hang the banner. They appeared in the playoffs.
So I think we're all in agreement that like the Saints can compete with the Buccaneers, but the Saints in Carolina can keep this division interesting, and even Atlanta could kind of muddle things up a little bit. So this division, I think, could be fun to watch. I love unknown divisions. Because it's like, oh, well, I hate like when I don't hate, but when you see a division, you just like, we know who's going to win that division. It's kind of boring. Like the NFC North. Yeah, I was going to say the NFC North, not to fill Dave's head, because he won't be able to fit his head through that door. But the Packers, we're pretty confident the Pats will win that division. Like, there's other things that could happen. You never know.
And they own the Bears, so there's that. Well, there's no competition there.
Aaron Rodgers is officially a part owner. He's deciding where the new stadium's going.
So you think, but this division, what's going to happen? But you know who has a lot of questions? The FBI. So the FBI actually just questioned NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre in connection with a $70 million Mississippi welfare scandal. The nation's poorest state used welfare money to pay Brett Favre for speeches he never made.
Maybe he ought to look into more Copperfit commercials. That's the only saving grace, because they're going to allow him the elasticity to get himself out of this mess.
How did he know where the money was coming from? Like, was he?
I don't even know.
Oh my
God,
such a using mess. Welfare money just to give him. Oh my God,
he knew.
He had to, right? That there's
From
no way
that
that
sending at New York to retiring in Minnesota, and it's just been a rough last decade for Brett Favre.
I'm telling you, because Brett Favre was like a hero of mine growing up. I used to love it. Country boy playing quarterback, tough as nails.
Addicted to Adderall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the NFL. I have a bone to pick with the NFL with that kind of shit. But I just like watching that. Now, like, you start seeing it. This is why, like, what's that old saying? You never meet your heroes or whatever. It just kind of sucks with the day and age of technology. We see things that we never really should have seen as fans, and it kind of like spoils it and ruins it. And this does kind of suck to see Brett Favre part of this, but I mean, it's reality.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's just it sucks.
He
but
made those decisions.
I had to drop better. That. Yeah,
he knew better. He knew he wasn't going to appear. And they took the money anyway. Yeah. I'll be there. I'm going to the donut store. I'll pick up some coffee.
And he doesn't make a speech. He just shows up and waves.
It's really sad to see him tarnish his legacy like this. Okay, fine. So we went over to play for Minnesota. That didn't help. Right off the bat. Okay,
in Packers fans' eyes, that was probably worse.
That was the biggest slap in the face, stab in the back. Slapping with someone else's cheese. Whatever. Now
it's like watching Ben Roethlisberger going to play for the Ravens.
That's exactly right. And you know what? Funny thing you should mention that, because that's exactly what was going through my head. Get out of it, Dave. Get out.
I watched Jason Taylor play for the Jets.
Ooh,
it's the Jets. If it was the Patriots, I'd assume. I'd assume it's a more of a
but he made
like
plays.
Tom Brady going over to play for the Buccaneers. I mean, that's nothing. I was like,
now Tom Brady came to play for the Dolphins. I mean,
like it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, Flores.
Now he just owns some of the Dolphins.
Sorry, he did the right thing, Brett.
He almost
he has a porpoise.
I mean, we owned him in Miami for so long, so he's like, I'm also just have ownership in Miami. So
there you go, some sand and some porpoise while he's at it.
He needs to get some face products for how he looked after coming back from his trip.
Oh,
I saw him at his presser. I'm like, Tom, are you okay?
That looked like a man with no sleep and no, I don't know what's going on.
Giselle left him, abandoned him for a month with the kids.
The hoodie and everything. Dude, I'm done.
Getting back to this Brett Favre thing, one of the poorest parts of the country is Mississippi. And I know that for a fact because I've been there. I've been to the Ole Miss campus. I know what it's like. I understand the environment. I know people that live there that did not want to live there, want to live somewhere else, that had more money, that had more of a possibility. Unless your name was Manning, you weren't getting out of Mississippi alive. I mean, it was almost that kind of a vibrancy, but the fact that he used child welfare money.
Yeah.
He took that money knowing full well that he should have never taken that money.
And on the other side, whatever politicians were in office that are still around, they should be prosecuted to the fullest too. Just like you're taking literally food out of people's stomachs.
Politicians do it every day. They're crooked and dirty as just as what Brett did.
You're taking the heat and air out of people's homes, and you're taking their livelihoods. People rely on that money, and that's just $70 million worth just to do speeches when he was already a millionaire from playing football.
Multi-millionaire. The guy didn't have to do any work. He didn't have to do any speeches. He didn't have to go sell Copperfit. I mean,
everybody knows who Brett Favre is. So doing the Wrangler commercials, playing football and Wranglers, and all that stuff, and whatever else he does with all everybody knows who Brett Favre is. You know what I mean? He's the guy that played in There's Something About Mary. So that's how he got famous.
Ben Stiller made him. You know what?
No, but everybody
get out the Kleenex.
Why does he need $70 million for from welfare when he could just do the commercials and stuff like Shaq does.
Ran out of good Wranglers. I don't know.
Get your money honestly, Shaq. Please don't be a dirtbag in real life. Like I hope not.
Maybe you should have switched to Levi's instead of Wranglers. They probably paid more.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and jump back on the Falcons real quick. I'm gonna give my little review. I'm not a big fan of Mariota there. I think he's gonna stink up a couple games. I do not like Marcus Mariota because of the fact of I don't think he's a good quarterback. I out of Oregon, same thing.
Dare you?
He can hit the 30-line bullet throws, but ask him to hit a drop in the bucket pass. He can't do it.
Are you telling me that there's a prolific college passer that isn't working out in the NFL? That's never happened ever.
It's not even that. It's the fact that he's in this offense before in Tennessee and couldn't perform when it mattered.
But he did better when it mattered versus Ryan Tannehill, who's still there. Who's still there and can't get it done either. What other quarterback has done that?
And he took his job.
Other than
him.
What
does that say?
Yeah, that's actually a conundrum.
They said that Ryan Tannehill is a game manager, and we want you to manage the game. Forget the win part of the game. We want you to manage the game. Manage it to where we can at least get in field goal range. That's the management of the game. Are you kidding me? Marcus Mariota, underrated player. He backed up Derek Carr. He was a winner as a starter. He threw touchdowns, completions better than incompletion ratio. Look, the guy just has not been in a very solid system that he can actually learn from better than somebody by the name of Derek Carr. That's okay. No, fine. For all intents and purposes, Derek Carr has thrown more interceptions in an untimely manner than anyone in the AFC West within the last 5 years. Not named Herbert. Okay. So Mariota has not been given enough of an opportunity. Now he gets to take the helm with a franchise that's on the rise. Not anytime soon, but is on the rise. They still have draft picks. They have a ton of draft capital. And if Home Depot is paying Art Blank the money because he co-owns it and does his investments,
maybe he doesn't need to pump fake ground noise.
Maybe you know what? Maybe he should borrow some of the money that Brett Favre has. Anyway, so
it doesn't exist, Rudy. How dare you?
Of course, it doesn't exist.
I just feel that's just how I am. I'm not a Mariota guy. I appreciate your reply, but I can't. I'm just not on that bandwagon. I think he's going to be benched by week 8 to 10. I think Ritter, the fans are going to pound the benches, and Ritter's going to be in. I think Ritter's going to steal the show. I love Ritter's mental capacity of what he has for the game. I just think once he gets a chance, he's going to run with it. And Mariota has all the chances in the world. He has London and Pitts. The guy is amazing. Patterson, he has Patterson. Algiers about to start. I think the offense is set. Offensive line's a little shaky still, but he's
I'm an Algier guy. I was a big fan of Algier. I love watching him.
If he proves me wrong, I'll give him the props. But I'm going to wait for that drop in the bucket throw because that's the one thing I have not seen Mariota do.
I watched Algier at BYU, and I said, this kid is going to be good, but he's got to be in a perfect system. Like, there's certain systems that fit. And we get drafted by the Falcons. I'm like, that's it. That's the fit I was talking about.
Shanahan hybrid offense. Yeah.
Of course, you're going to hear he's like Derrick Henry because he's big. No, stop. No, it's not it. No. But, he's going to be successful in that offense. I believe he can be successful. Here's the funny thing about Ritter, real quick before we move on to the AFC South. Ritter kind of reminded me of Tannehill. That was my comp for him. Very similar coming out. Very similar styles. I think Ritter might be a little bit more prepared, playing quarterback a little bit longer than Tannehill did in college because Tannehill went from quarterback to wide receiver, back to quarterback and all that. So it would be ironic if Mariota does lose his job to Ritter, but losing his job once again to a guy that was just like Tannehill in similar skill sets. But I agree with both of you. That the thing is, Mariota has shown up and made big plays at points, but he doesn't manage the game very well either at the same time. So it's going to be something. Can Arthur Smith get that from him? And Arthur Smith brought him for a reason. We've seen coaches leave, go to another team, and not bring their quarterback with them, and they go get somebody else. So this, I think, is just, hey, I'm going to get a veteran in here. He's going to run it. I'm not going to throw the rookie to the wolves yet. We're going to develop him. And Mariota's going to kind of help us get this system installed, and then we're going to go from there. The Falcons have always been like the Detroit Lions to me, to be honest with you. They have more swag. They have a better following. They have more of a larger fan base. They clearly have a lot more money.
and know and knowingly what to do with that amount of money, unlike the Lions ownership group that continues to find themselves in the toilet every single year.
Kind of
The
like their
Atlanta
vehicles.
Falcons, at least a bird can find out where he needs to go. I'm just saying. Whereas a Lion's like, whatever.
Hey, I'll give Martha Ford some credit. Not Martha, her son or her daughter. Sorry,
daughter.
Her daughter took over, and they've actually been making better moves as of late. I'll give Lions the nod over that because, I mean, stocking up the offensive line, defensive line. I know Goff ain't it, but still the wide receivers have gotten better. Hawkinson's there. I'm just Martha. She's old. She's from the 50s. She doesn't know football.
This is the same family that made a Mustang an electric car.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
I just think her daughter's doing a much better job than she did. Martha just cared about the money in the seat. That's it.
Her daughter learned from both her dad and her mom, meaning that she understands the football process, what that incorporates to in regards to offseason picks, acquisitions, people to run the front office to make those decisions. That has a lot to do with who they have picked up versus those they have released, right? Any good organization will have people in the front office making those decisions. Now, are they always the best decisions? No. Is a draft pick you're going to grab first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth supplemental rounds and such are going to be someone you're going to carry into the next season? No, we've seen a lot of guys in the waiver wire that have been released that only played 1 year with their respective team, and now they're on to somewhere else. The Atlanta Falcons don't have that problem, right? When I say problem, I mean the problem that the Detroit Lions have. They don't have that problem because they've been to Super Bowl. Yes, they got blown out by the Patriots, but they did get there, which is a lot more than where the Lions have been in the last, again, 30 years.
Right.
Or even more than that for that matter. But the fact that they acquired Drake London, I was there. I didn't have a chance to interview Drake one-on-one. But I love his swag. And being an offensive player of the year or the rookie of the year certainly will help his cause. He comes from a very solid system. Family background is solid. But the problem that I have with the Falcons is there's a certain time of year where they end up going winless in, and that's where they lose their momentum. They lose their mojo. They lose their ability to move the ball, especially on third down. Second down, not that much of a problem. First down, it's just kind of moving the chain passes, things that are real quick. Your check downs and you're good to go. But they end up losing at home, except for winning against the Steelers to a pumped in, as you stated, Dave, noisy stadium at that point. But I think that the fan base was more concerned as to where Matt Ryan was going to go versus this new regime, Marcus Mariota coming over, Desmond Ridder. And by the way, Dave, to your point about Desmond Ridder, I love Desmond Ridder. I thought it was a fantastic pick. I would have liked to have seen Pittsburgh draft Malik Willis instead of Kenny Pickett because Malik was, and I'm not going to say that. Hold on. I'm not going to say that the quarterback draft class was all that. Had a bag of sour cream Lay's potato chips. What I am saying is that Malik Willis certainly has shown what he's got with the Tennessee Titans. And mark my words on the Titans, and we're going to segue over to that in just a moment.
You're good, you.
Mark my words.
Done this for a little bit, hasn't he?
Mark my words. You're going to. Yes, I have. Actually, yeah, I have. To think of it, I had to double check myself. But when you look at where this Falcons team is, I think they look a lot like the Tennessee Titans. If for some reason you get
funny how that works,
Desmond Ridder to actually play in that system and to be the starter in Atlanta, they could be the spoiler team that ruins Carolina's chances of getting into a wild card position with the rest of the NFC.
And they have my favorite weapon, one of my favorite weapons from that draft, Kyle Pitts. And I had a little sticky note. When the Dolphins had a third overall pick, said Kyle Pitts no matter what, and they broke my heart, and they missed out on him and Chase and got Waddle. I like Waddle, but Pitts is just a specimen. He just makes plays, and if he's going to make Mariota and Ridder's life so easy, kind of like AJ Brown made Tannehill's life easy, and now they lost him. Now they have Treylon Burks, and they just paid Derrick Henry. And looking at the Titans, obviously Arthur Smith is with the Falcons doing what he's doing. and bringing that there. But did they lose something losing Arthur Smith and losing LaFleur? You know, because I feel like losing Arthur Smith, the offense wasn't quite the same last year. It just didn't feel the same.
I think speaking of the Titans, I don't know how much they're going to miss them. They did pick up some pretty solid coaches. I don't know their names right off the top of my head, but look at what they did pick up though. Round 1 was Treylon Burks, wide receiver at Arkansas, speed guy, extremely athletic. I love his hand-eye. He's a one-hand ball catcher. I've seen that at Arkansas from him quite a few occasions. When the game's on the line, the guy knows where pay dirt is, and he found it quite often in Arkansas. Roger McCurry, he's a corner out of Auburn. They needed that secondary help in a big, big way. And then they picked up Petit Free out of the Ohio State University on the offensive side of the ball. So, I mean, you have the picks of picks that were sleeper picks. Nobody picked any of these guys. And if someone hammers up their draft board to say and suggest that they picked these guys, they need to put down the crack pipe because he didn't. That's the bottom line.
Titans just lost Harold Landry today for a torn ACL.
Yeah,
that's
torn
a big
ACL. Yep, exactly.
And that sucks because Harold Landry was a good part of their defense. They still got Bud Dupree,
he was a leader.
Harold Landry was a good player, man, and he was explosive for him. But the one thing they have is the offensive line's good. That's not going to change. They still have Zach Cunningham and man in the middle of the defense.
Yep.
They I think David Long was making some plays for him. So they have some talent on defense still. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. So I'm not suggesting that. But it almost feels like they're kind of like they're still in the window to win now, but like how much more do they have? And then I wonder how long of a leash does Ryan Tannehill have? Because you take a look at this division, Davis Mills and the Texans. Davis Mills, I think, played fantastic last year. Nobody saw that coming. Considering where he was drafted, I think he was on a rough roster. You saw people talking about didn't have a lot of talent around him, and he still made things happen. Then you go get this rookie Dameon Pierce, who looks the part. He looked good when I was at the Senior Bowl watching him. The dude wanted violence when they were going half speed, So I love what I see from him. And then you look at the Colts. We know what they are. They're a good football team. They're play tough on defense. They run the ball down your throat. They have probably their best quarterback they've had on their roster, assuming Matt Ryan can still play at the same level. Where do we see this division going? Do we see Houston and Indianapolis challenging the Titans for this division at this point?
Rudy, I'll give you the go ahead on it.
Houston, Texas, I really have them. They're a middle of the road team right now for me, and they could be that spoiler that you would find in the Atlanta Falcons, right? Similar in that they're dealing with a one is a multi-year starter when you're talking about Marcus Mariota, whereas now Davis Mills is the helm guy, the guy under center for the Houston Texans. But they do have the weapons, and they did a lot of great things in the draft from Derek Stingley from the cornerback position, Kenyon Green, who is going to protect his blind side at Texas A&M,
he's going to play every
Petrie, Michi III out of Alabama. Of course, what Nick Saban does down south. Christian Harris on the defense, Dameon Pierce out of Florida. He's an RB.
Yep.
Look, all these guys are going to have their time and maybe have a run-in to be the perennial starter for this team.
But and Nico Collins, who's been lighting it up from Michigan. He had a good preseason. He's been turning heads.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that is why I'm picking the Houston Texans. As good as I think they're going to be, there's just not there yet. And I have them at 5-13.
Well, I mean, but the Dolphins were 5-11 in 2019, but they showed some fight, right? And the Lions was it last year or before? They weren't all that great, but they played upset. They fought and they got in the games and won games they shouldn't have. I mean, you look at the Jaguars last year beat the Bills. I can see the Texans being that team. They might only win 5 games, but you look at them and say they're on to something. The AFC South's on alert. Like
Lovie Smith makes it work.
And I'm telling you, and I think I'm actually interested to see how he does with offense and defense. I always love Lovie Smith as a head coach. Has he lost his luster? We'll see. I mean, he hasn't been that great in college lately, but
he got fired from the NFL as a winning record, though.
Right? Yeah. So I'd like to see what he does with.
He's barely
Texans.
over 500. It's not like he's Nick Saban.
He was 10-6 when he got fired.
No, he's not Andy Reid getting fired. Which
historically, we've seen Marty Schottenheimer get fired by the then San Diego Chargers with a winning record.
The Chargers are also stupid.
They came off of 11-5 record or 13, something ridiculous. But I think you can. Realistically, you can see the Texans. I think what they're doing could work. We've seen this.
It's not going to work
before.
This year.
No.
Work this year. No,
I'm more looking for them
a couple years.
I actually think the Texans are the team that could not sweep, but could split with the Colts, split with the Titans.
They're the Falcons of the.
And if they do that, I think we're all going to say we need to watch out for the Texans because they're giving these teams fits. So that's just kind of how I just think they had something going there. I don't know. It's something I have a gut feeling about the Texans this year. Not winning anything, not being a winning team, just being a team that we see major improvement from, just a competitive team that's on the verge.
To say we're here, hey, don't take us for granted. Yeah.
Right. No, and I believe they're going to be one of those teams. Now, don't forget they're only a year removed from this Deshaun Watson debacle, which the Cleveland Browns certainly embraced and
of all teams.
Haslam went out on a limb saying, "Well, he's only 26 years old, and we need to evaluate it." Blah blah blah. Okay.
And then admittedly said if he wasn't a quarterback, we wouldn't be doing this. Like an idiot.
Yeah. The Browns do what the Browns do, like the Bears do what the Bears do. So
Agreed.
This situation with Deshaun Watson is long gone, but there's still, because you have a new regime in there, because you have a new identity, they're trying to build up their morale. They're trying to give themselves a better name via PR, which can be done, right? We all know that winning cures all wounds.
Yep.
And if this team gets on a winning streak, streaky as it may be, especially when you're in downtown Manhattan, as streaky as this team could actually and potentially become, they could be the spoiler in this division, because you have the Tennessee Titans with questions at quarterback, questions. I know they just had given they had restructured Derrick Henry's contract to give him more money. Mm-hmm. So more money means more responsibility. More money means more carries. More money means you're the guy who's going to get us in the end zone and dragging people through Old Spice commercials. So
he'll do it.
Well, you know what it means? It means that we need to win now, and we're going to pay you now because we're going to ride the hell out of you now. The way I took that was
you're the bell cow.
Yeah, Henry, you're going to be our offense this year, and we're just missing. And then last year with sour taste in our mouth. We're going to run behind you this year, and if all else fails, we're just going to hit the reset because their window's closing. Just like I think the Colts window's closing. They're on that, Frank Reich has done an amazing job of doing this, coaching his tough team, and every year he's trying to find that quarterback to get him over the hump. And it's they're right there, but that window is only so big with how they're doing things. The same thing with the Titans.
Well, what I really enjoy about looking at the Tennessee Titans, it's not Ryan Tannehill, not a fan. I could probably throw a better, tighter spiral than Ryan Tannehill blindfolded. I don't know. I don't even want to think. I want to put that to test.
Sir, that's Dolphin great. Ryan Tannehill.
Spin me around.
Couldn't even keep a straight face there.
Yeah, I can't even keep a straight mustache, much less a straight face.
I respect the hell out of the guy because he scraped himself off the grass every week with a crappy offensive line. But he is what he is. I'm a realistic person about him. He's a tough
absolutely.
guy, and I love him as a person. I'm like, dude, he's awesome, and I love Ryan Tannehill, what he did with the Dolphins, but he's not the guy, and that shows up time and time again in the playoffs.
That's exactly right. And Mike Vrabel, I'm sure, has had to answer a lot of tough questions, especially in the offseason when it comes to quarterback play, his control of the line. Can Ryan Tannehill be the guy to get it done? Now, of course, Ryan Tannehill decided to make some offseason comments in regards to who Malik Willis was and how lack of caring he was towards them.
That actually surprised me because I thought he was different than that. That surprised me to hear him say that.
It's surprising to me to see Brett Favre take money from the mouths of babes. I mean, it's the same exact way. Character shows when money and winning is on the line. And if you win the AFC South and you get to the Super Bowl, you get paid even more money. There are incentives in each individual player's contract that indicates that if they get to that certain threshold and they pass that threshold, they get a game check. They get a game check for winning the Super Bowl. They get a game check for AFC Championship game. The list goes on and on and on. Every player is going to be different, but they're all going to get and are incentivized to do just that, to get paid. Just like we have this NIL situation in college right now, right? Name, image, likeness, where these guys are going to be paid because of how well they perform on the field. And I see both sides of the coin when it comes to NIL and talking about college football, which is a whole nother animal. And I hope Pitt won today. I don't know.
Right now, Pitt is winning 24-23 over West Virginia.
It's always a tightly contested game between those two when Pitt comes in at 17.
Yeah.
Rudy, I honestly didn't know you're a Pitt guy, but I've had this game on in the background, keeping up with it. So it just worked out great.
Keep me informed, would you?
Yeah, I got you, buddy.
It works out. It works out. Appreciate it. But, you know, the you're talking about a short leash. I think Ryan Tannehill himself is also on a short leash, and he knows it. And that's the reason why he responded the way that he did.
And you know what? Talk about responding. You know, Malik Willis is playing well this preseason.
Did y'all see that sidearm touchdown he threw? And the defender was right in his face.
And let me tell you, Malik Willis, Rudy, were you at the Senior Bowl?
No, I missed out.
Okay, so you've been in the media.
I did watch
time,
it,
so I'm sure you've talked to people that were down there and all. Malik Willis, day one, looked rusty. Nobody looked good. All of us looked at each other and said, "I don't see a first-round quarterback." Day two. Malik Willis, I'm like, okay, that looks pretty good. You know, Carson Strong even did a couple things. I'm like, that's better than I've seen on film. And then, like, every day there's two quarterbacks who got better and better, but nobody got better than Malik Willis, in my opinion. And as a coach, I've talked to coaches before, and they've always said in practice and training camp, we're always looking for progression from young players. We're not necessarily you're going to go from a rookie to this phenomenal veteran overnight, but we're looking for every practice to get better and better and better. And Willis was like a coach's dream, in my opinion. He looked good every time I watch Willis, he's getting better. Every time you see him, he's getting better. That's a major plus on him. And I think it's going to be really hard for the Titans to sit there and see him like making plays and getting better all the time. And they have got if he's doing that in practice, it's going to be awfully hard for them to see Tannehill struggle and then not start him. So I think that leash will get tight, especially if the race for the AFC South gets tight and Tannehill starts to struggle. They could look for that spark of Malik Willis,
which he has consistently.
Right. And if the Titans are running away with it or have a good lead, I don't see them benching Tannehill. So that's what it's going to take for Tannehill to keep his job. Right. Dave, what do you think?
Winning.
Sorry, I just saw West Virginia tie up the game. It's 24-24.
There you go.
What do you know?
On the edge.
I love college football because I have really no stake other than Ohio State for my wife and Virginia Tech. I watched Mike Vick as a kid, so I just love the high-scoring battles. I love it. Good.
So to go back,
no dogs in the fight here.
Yeah, none. Texans wanted to add in O.J. Howard did sign with them. Not just a visit, but they did sign with him.
He did.
That could be a good addition behind Brevin Jordan. Good little tight
fit
end
for them. Yep. Good blocker. Hasn't been much receiver. The injuries kind of tore him up. But he is an athletic freak. He's just been injured.
He just needs to tap into that talent he showed before he had the Achilles injury.
Right.
The guy was a freak of nature.
Exactly
and I feel like if he found a little bit of that, he'll find a place in Houston. Lovey loves tight ends that'll block and get in the flats and catch passes.
Also, this signed Tyler Johnson from Minnesota, who played for the Buccaneers.
Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks. Not a little shabby wide receiver room there they get.
Chris Conley, Chris Moore.
Chris Conley, Anyways,
he was such a freak at the combine.
I
know, but so was Kevin King, and look at Kevin King.
Teamless.
So Titans, Texans, I've got it on those. Dameon Pierce, I've said it before. I think he's a beast. I think he's a Lovey guy. I'm not saying he's the Matt Forte, but I'm saying he's Lovey's new Matt Forte. He's the 3-down back. He can catch out of the backfield.
Right.
I mean, the guy is going to do it all. He can also block well. That's another thing he did at Florida really well. And Lovey loves guys who will lay out a linebacker that's a running back.
Speaking of that, and I probably have the video on my phone. He popped the dude at the Senior Bowl.
I heard about that.
Drills. Oh my God. We were up in the stands. You just hear crack. I'm like, oh my God. It
wasn't the beer cracking.
Bret might have.
No, maybe. But I heard that. I was like, oh my God. And they were still in shorts. My dude, I think it was like half speed. That's what I'm telling you, man, that dude, like, he wanted to go full speed. He doesn't believe in half speed. I love Damian Pierce.
He wants violence, him, like Bret said, and it shows on his tape.
And Lovey loves those kind of guys, man.
Yeah.
Matt Forte, he wanted violence. It doesn't matter if he was shifty, he still leveled his shoulder. But I'll jump to the Colts. You guys were talking about him. Matt Ryan to me is a better fit, as you guys said earlier, than any of the other quarterbacks. But in Atlanta, he had to do the heavy lifting for so long. Here, he just goes, here, Jonathan Taylor. Here, Jonathan Taylor. Here's Michael Pittman. Oh, like, here's Paris Campbell. Oh, here's Alex Pierce.
Mo Ali Cox.
Yeah. Don't push it.
Hey, he had a couple good weeks of fantasy for me one year,
and he gets injured every year.
I know.
I just think that Matt Ryan has the best chance to get back to being a solid game manager. He doesn't need to be the MVP 2016 Matt Ryan. Jonathan Taylor's going to do all the work. Let him do it. I think it's going to work out. I think the Colts are going to win the division. Titans got too many questions on defense for me. Their DBs are have some question marks over them. I mean, you've got Harold Landry just went down, and first call I'd be making, hey, Jason Pierre-Paul, you want to come play edge for us on Tennessee and help us win a division title? He's still a free agent. The guy plays edge just as well as he did when he was younger. JPP can still play. It's a perfect fit, in my opinion.
He's picking and choosing his spots, and that would be a good spot for him.
It'd be perfect. He'd be outside linebacker or edge one. He'd be perfect for it.
And there's another guy they have there that they drafted that I like is Alec Pierce, big physical receiver who can catch the ball really well.
Since he's a Ritter guy.
Yep, exactly. So tall, athletic, freakishly so, I might add. He needs to put on a little bit of weight, but outside of that, the guy can, bump and run,
crisp route running
with the best of them. That's just what he does.
And then they got Jelani Woods. Yes, Rudy.
Jelani.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Take it away, Rudy. Eat your heart out.
Big physical guy who can handle the ball. He's probably one of the best blockers I think that even went drafted in round 3. I didn't see anybody else nowhere near as good as his blocking skills are. I'm going to be honest with you.
He was one of my top tight ends, man.
Right, exactly. I'd say at least top 1, if not
Mike
2-1.
Gesicki, eat your heart out.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Bernard Raymond
I'm going to add in too, Shaq Leonard got taken off of IR, and he is active for week 1. So they get their general back, and they're moving him to middle instead of Will because the new defense under Bradley, it's basically the same thing. It's just a different name title. I really like that they did sign Dennis Kelly because he's been in this offensive line room before, so he's familiar with a couple people.
Yep.
I just think, and he played for Green Bay at right tackle for a half a year a couple years ago.
He also played for the Titans too, right?
Yeah. Dennis Kelly he's been in the league a little bit, and he knows his football. The guy has come in and played right tackle multiple times, and without a hitch, and he's actually graded well.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me wonder, why is he still bouncing around? But either way, Indy to me, I don't call him a Super Bowl contender, but I think they can go to a medium playoff run. Not like a deep one, but maybe a divisional, but that's it. I think there's other contenders.
The division, to be
yeah. I think Colts are going to take it, no question.
Oh, they're going to win the division. I don't see them losing this division. I think the Titans are in a little bit of trouble. I think they're going to want to win the division, and their offensive line is not only good, it's deep. And Rudy started mentioning Raymond, the rookie, and he was a guy watching him at the Senior Bowl. I'm like, I see the talent. He's very raw. He still has a lot to learn. I said he's going to have to go to the right place for me to feel like he's going to have a bright future. And where does he end up?
Placement matters so much in the NFL.
Dude, when I saw him at the Colts, I'm like, he's in the right place because they seem to be developing their offensive line very well. All their young guys step in. It's like they have an injury. They don't even miss a beat. The only thing they miss is when Quentin Nelson goes down, which I think he only missed.
God, he scares me.
He's a beast. But so that's that was a good spot. So they have a lot of youth on that team, but a lot of veterans at the same time. They're an interesting team because when you think of the Colts on the surface, you start thinking they're long in the tooth. But then when you really look at their team, they're actually really young with a little bit of sprinkled in veterans and a guy like Matt Ryan. And Dave hit the nail on the head. Matt Ryan has to just rely on his running game, and he has the weapons to throw to.
Offensive line play is going to be huge in this. And I don't know that offensive linemen really get the kind of due that they should be given every single year, because if it wasn't for them and the A gaps that they open and the ability for them to do the 3 back step drops, I will be out in Bakersfield, California on the 14th working with former NFLer Logan Toley-Tillman, an offensive line guru.
Nice.
And, we're going to put some interviews and things together. So when I look at guys like a Raymond, he's extremely raw. He has to understand the flows and the ebbs of the NFL and offensive line play. Hand placement is huge. Being able to keep defenders off of quarterbacks, keeping those gaps open,
lateral
shifts,
agility with those
of that
hips.
nature. Yeah, man, those things go a very long way, especially for a guy like Matt Ryan, who cannot. I mean, he has ran before. I've seen him do it in Atlanta quite a few times.
Like a
over
baby
his
zebra trying to learn to run.
Yeah, really, or scared rabbit. But
back in the day, he could scoot a little bit, but now,
forget it. He's like Tom Brady in the pocket. It's
like watching an old man run or me run. Whatever.
Roughing the passer, and they bring out the walker. It's you get him up off the ground. Forget about it.
Nothing was bad as Peyton Manning in his later years in Denver. My God, that was bad.
Hey, he ran a touchdown in. Okay,
it took him 10 seconds from the 5-yard line.
I'll tell you what. I probably ran faster than him after he hosted the ESPY Awards.
Yeah,
he roasted Kevin Durant like I was watching Marshmallow.
Dude, KD's face sitting there. Oh my God,
that was astonishing.
Really? That was great.
Funny. If I had a camera, I would have taken like every angled photo of what his face looked like, just from that position. Sidebar: when Peyton Manning was leaving with his kids, he had a little pep in his step because he didn't want people to recognize him. This was after the lights were gone, SPs had been closed, the whole 9 yards. He's leaving. I see him out of the corner of my eye, and I run over there like I was being chased by the police. I mean, I was just all over this guy leaving with his kids and his entourage. And I said, hey, I said, mind if I take a photo with you? Yeah, hurry up, man. I'm leaving. I'm like, I know, Peyton. I know. I'll be right back. So I'd probably beat someone's 40-yard dash at the combine. I don't know who. Maybe with Rich
Rudy 4-2 flat. Right
That's it. 4-2 flat. That's right. I went right back to this guy.
Rudy passed Chris Johnson.
That's Cheetah for that matter.
Oh my God,
man. But it was great. It was great meeting him, and he did everything he could endeavor to win with that organization. But very, very likable guy. But one of those things that reminds me of a Matt Ryan. Once Matt Ryan retires, I just want him to win that ring before he does retire. And to be honest with you, he has the best shot right now with this Colts team. I don't know if the Tennessee Titans are going to be able to catch up with a guy who's already been to the Super Bowl and done that. Went to an NFC championship game and did that, right? So it's about experience. It's about fluency. And I think more importantly, this is going to boil down in this division anyway. Overall, it's going to boil down to who's going to provide the best quarterback play out of all of these guys. And I think clearly it's Matt Ryan. I'm not a believer in Tannehill. Davis Mills, not enough experience.
I mean, you got to look at the Jaguars.
Trevor Lawrence has actually shown something. In
and we know what Trevor Lawrence can be, what he was drafted to
Eventually, he will be that guy. He'll be the guy that Khan said, you know what? That's why I hired you to lead this team. But again,
great
not
shot
there yet.
Khan impersonation.
I don't even know. I've never heard the guy talk in my life, so I wouldn't know.
I'm like, this is great. Shot Khan.
You know what I mean? Walk in, hello, my friend. That kind of thing. I've never interviewed. I don't know this guy, but you know what?
I'm going to mention something. Go ahead, Rudy. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that when you look at who the Indianapolis Colts are, I think they're legit. I think they'll win the division. I think they may even be a low-hanging fruit heading into postseason, meaning that they, depending on where they're at, other teams in the AFC, and you hate to look up at Big Brother and see Big Brother going in, but you're holding the consolation trophy at the end of it all, right? Because nobody wants to see that. But I think that Indy could maybe and possibly enter an AFC championship conversation if, in fact, the fluency is there. Gameplay is there. Quarterback play is there. Secondary does their job. Stopping other teams, at any given time, owning the trenches against your opponents you play twice a year in your division is going to be key for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward, and as if it was in any other division.
And if any team can do that, I believe it's going to be the Colts and Titans. But I do believe the Colts will edge out this year. They had a down year last year. And we're getting a little long, so I do want to wrap this up. We didn't talk about the Jaguars much, but I do think the Jaguars.
We don't need to.
Right. I do think the Jaguars are just like a big question mark.
From a couple Jaguars-Steelers games a couple of years ago.
I don't care. Hey,
stop it, Rudy.
I met Jimmy Smith when I was in Vegas covering the draft, and he says, "I thought you were shorter." Okay, I'm as tall as he is, and he's 6'1". So anyway, what does that tell you? I have no beef with the Jags, by the way.
The Jags, you got Trevor Lawrence. We don't know what big question mark with everything. Doug Peterson, is, and the funny thing is, he's now in a division against one of his former pupils, Frank Reich, who a lot of people credited Frank Reich for the Eagles winning the Super Bowl more so than Peterson. Right? I'm not going to take that away from Peterson, and
he's got a chip.
Yeah. So is he going to
against Bill of all people?
We're gonna find out who was honestly the answer this year. Because I could imagine the Jaguars beat the Colts at least once. It's going to be like, well, maybe Peterson actually is a pretty good coach, and he knew something about Frank Reich that that he could.
Jags have always been scrappy though in the past. When they've had talent like this.
They just beat the Bills last year. They upset the Bills. So
remember how many times they would give Peyton Manning a fight in those games whenever
I used to love watching that with Byron Leftwich at quarterback. They would give him a fight
Jimmy
and Peyton
Smith,
Manning would win at the end.
Fred Taylor.
Those were fun games to watch because it was like a slugfest. Yeah. But this division, to me, I think it's going to come down to the Colts and the Titans. And I'm going to leave you guys with this as my final thoughts.
Jaguars win the division per Bret.
Yes. Davis Mills legend. No. So Matt Ryan with the Colts is similar, emphasize that, with Peyton Manning and the Broncos when they won. Why? Very good defense, good head coach, can run the ball, good offensive line. Peyton Manning, remember, wasn't Peyton Manning when they won that year. Peyton Manning was still better than Matt Ryan is right now. I'm not saying any of that. But I think they have a similar situation and they can win the division. And I think Matt Ryan can manage himself and manage this offense. And as long as they stay healthy, I think they can honestly compete with anybody, especially in the cold weather.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Jonathan Taylor.
It's hard.
And I'm not saying they definitely will win a Super Bowl like the Broncos did, because I don't think their defense is that dominant and good. But it can lead to a winning recipe where they can compete in the playoffs. That's my take.
There's some heavyweights in the AFC that they have to contend with.
Yeah, the Browns being one of them who still have question marks in regards to who the guy is going to be under center. He's going to be able to perform, either Jacoby Brissett or
Case Keenum's going to get traded back.
And Josh Dobbs.
I think the AFC North this year is kind of like a big question mark. The AFC West is biggest like factor.
The hopes of the Bengals repeating are maybe 30%.
Right, and then the Ravens, who are the Ravens going to be? Steelers,
don't know.
Ravens and Steelers are going to be competitive, but I mean, are they really going to be in the race? We don't know yet. The Browns are going to be Browns. Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, so there's a lot of I still think that they can compete. In the AFC East, the Bills are like yes, for sure, the Bills. The rest, who knows? So that's why I do think the Colts can win their division and they can make the playoffs.
I'm going to give my 2 cents, or maybe if I was in Europe, my pence. Single pence, no 2 pence, single pence. Jacksonville Jaguars will actually hop the Houston Texans.
Whoa.
And here's why. You pick up Trayvon Walker, defensive end out of Georgia, fresh off a national championship win. Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of Utah, not really talked about in the Pac-12. Led his
Freaking
team.
beast.
They needed
tackles.
that, being losing Miles Jack.
Miles Jack to Pittsburgh. You have Luke Fortner, center out of Kentucky, one of the best centers in the SEC. Chad Muma, linebacker out of Wyoming.
Stud. Absolute
Guy's
stud.
a freaking beast. The guy's all over the field. Okay, he can play multiple positions. It depends on whether or not he even gets an opportunity to play, and you're stupid if you don't play him in the third round. I think that when you look at Snoop Connor, he's running back out of Ole Miss. He's a little elusive, not what I would expect, but in round 5, that's what I would expect, right? Gregory Jr., Washington Baptist, people are like, where? It's like Jackson State, it's like one of the smallest colleges in NCAA.
Delayed on prime time, he got him back.
And then Montague Brown, quarterback out of Arkansas. And, just great stuff. Jaguars 6-12 for me, and be the spoiler, and we'll end up being the spoiler.
Oh, I like it. I like that. That's, to me, that's bold, but not bold. I like it. That's
all. What side of the boldness you're on.
But you brought like a lot of facts with it. And I always love that. And the fact that they revamped their defense and that was their focal point. Plus they have, so I absolutely loved it. I love what they did this offseason. I think they actually had a really good draft. I think they ran that very well, and they have talent. I liked what they did last year with ETN and getting Lawrence. So I do think they have talent to compete, and they can. I
Question
agree
for both of you.
What's
Is
up?
Christian Kirk worth the money? Is he going to prove it?
Hard to say.
Ooh,
I'm on reset the receiver market. I think he's a valuable receiver for who he is, but like the what they paid him.
But the only thing that I have, the only reason why Jacksonville will not go above is because they didn't get any offensive linemen. They didn't draft one. That's
cut a couple of them that started last year too.
Right.
Yeah. And at one point, just a few years ago, their offensive line was really young and good. And then all those players just started going downhill. I don't know why. Because they had like 5 studs that were pretty solid.
They did get Brandon Sheriff at their guard spot, but I mean that doesn't make up for tackle plays. So.
No,
he's not close. He's not an officer of the law. His name is Brandon Sheriff.
Yeah, he actually got demoted.
Sheriff.
He's now the janitor.
Dave, what's your final thoughts?
I'm just being picked on over here. Now, I think Colts run away with it. I think Titans, I think, are second, but I don't think they're going to fight to get near the division like in the NFC South, where we can see the Saints compete with the Bucs. That's what I just think the Colts run away with it. I.e. Jonathan Taylor, I think he joins the 2,000-yard rusher club this year. I think he's going to be used that much. But I have Texans over Jags. The only question marks I have about Jags is the secondary, their running game. Who's going to start? Is it James Robinson? Is it Travis Etienne? And both of them are injury prone, obviously. They can't stay healthy right now, either of them. So I don't know who's going to step up. Their tight ends. Last year they had James O'Shaughnessy, who they have this year.
They still have JaMychal Hasty and James Robinson as well.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at the defensive side, and I know I've given my final words on it, but they didn't pick up Hutchinson nor Thibodeau. Just saying.
Wasn't a big fan of Thibodeau out of Oregon. I wasn't a big fan of him.
No, but I would have nabbed Hutchinson. That's just me, though. Just saying.
Hey, don't get Lions fans excited out there, because I've got a buddy who will shut up about Aiden Hutchinson.
I do like Josh Allen, though. He's still a good player, good football player.
He's a stud.
And Trevon Walker. They're all around their linebackers.
His whole family is filled with studs. They own 3/4 of Fireball, California, which is about 45 minutes from me.
Oh, gee. And they got Foyes out of Ludicon, who I played really well for the Falcons last year. So
Ludicon, God, I can't believe they let him go and kept Deion Jones. It was such a bad decision.
Fast backwards.
Deion Jones fan,
but
Deion Jones, I'd have kept Ludicon.
Rudy, it was great having you on. You were amazing. We loved your puns. that went for miles.
I'm gonna tell my wife about these puns. She's gonna love it. She loves dad jokes.
You can't remember all those because there was so many.
I love it, Bill.
when you're on a roll, keep making pizza.
Keep making Tootsie Rolls like from the M&M store.
That's it. Yeah, don't break them.
No, seriously, you're welcome back anytime, brother. We love
blast.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Fun, I'll let you guys do. Thank everybody for listening, watching. Make sure you like it, love it, share it. Man. If you want to stand on your head and watch this, just turn the phone
he's doing the job tonight.
And you're good to go.
Hey guys, we got a new host. His name is Rudy Reyes.
Brett and I, we just got fired.
Awesome, Rudy. Thank you. That was great, man. We loved it. I really loved having you on. And one more thing, make sure to check out our sponsors, Badass Beer Care. Don't fear the beer, guys. All right. That's it for us. Until next week, we're out of here. See ya.